The bye week is over. The countdown is on. We are entering the last week of the 2023 A7FL regular season. I'm Matt Ryan, and welcome to the 3-on-1 podcast, streaming basically anywhere you have ears. Joining me this week on the podcast, as always, he's my quarterback. He's Cory Hammond, and the Omegas will be in action this Sunday, closing out their first season. I've got about 2 racks on Cory over 45 yards rushing. I've bet that with Olive. She doesn't understand betting or finances, so I've got a good shot on closing either way. And the handsome man smiling in the top left corner, big Rob Fabien doing big Rob things. Bachata Bob might be joining us a little bit later on. Sangria Bobby might be on deck tonight here on the podcast, but he is from the other side of the ball, and he's kind of our boss. He is the owner of A7FL Nevada, one of the heads of the A7FL Championship Committee. One of the things we'll be talking about here tonight, Derek Duncan. Derek, welcome back. I think this is your 4th time on the show, and that makes you, I think, our most frequent guest here on the show.
Wow. That's, excuse me, that's hard to believe. First of all, I didn't know we were keeping track. Secondly, keeping track so well that I've had the most appearances. I believe Cory probably has had the most appearances on our show, so that's not so bad.
That tracks.
And an episode is actually named a Cory Hammond Christmas, which I assumed that whatever that had the title to would be a little bit different, but I was happy to put my name on a great show. Check out The Other Side of the Ball wherever podcasts are sold.
And a very Matt Ryan Purim will be coming a little bit later on this year. It's just me in a clown outfit singing Pagliacci. It's very weird. Don't go to Burning Man, kids. Don't go to Burning Man. But we're burning the midnight oil, heading into the A7FL playoffs. And the energy heading into Week 7 is one of anticipation. It is first date energy. It is prom night energy because everybody's just looking to get to the dance, get to the big one, July 23rd. Anderson Automotive Fieldhouse. Derek, the first ever East-West A7FL Championship. You guys on the other side of the ball have yielded a lot of criticism about Vegas and possibly LA's path to an A7FL Championship. Where do you see the West right now? And do you believe that it's just a hop, skip, and a jump for you guys to make the hour and 45-minute ride on July 23rd from Vegas to the arena?
So we'll start with the first part of your question. And guys, thanks for having me on the show. And now that we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this stuff. So I am on record, and I'll say it again. I'm not, or I wasn't, a fan of the way that the playoffs are set up. I don't think that to have an automatic bid to the championship by beating teams that weren't part of the Northeast. But when they structured it that way, it gave the West a bunch of energy and had a bunch of people thinking that they could compete for a national championship, and now they're going to. And I think ultimately it's turned out to be a positive thing and a positive move for the overall league, kind of a la AFC, NFC, or AFL, NFL before the first Super Bowl, when we weren't sure the quality across the country or the quality of the other league, what it was going to look like. So that's where we're at now. Oddly enough, the Insomniacs have gotten your guys' vote to be the number 1 team in the country. And I mean, just through attrition with them not losing any games and having a quality schedule and playing some quality games and looking right on, they passed the eye test when you look at them, that they deserve to be in that number 1 spot, having not taken a loss, but they might look more like a number 1 Ohio State or Michigan with Bama and Georgia with 2 losses below them, and the rest of the country thinking they don't have a shot. They're going to get blown out by one of these 1-loss teams because they've run the gauntlet of the SEC. And I think that's the overall impression of the country. But it's not like Ohio State and Michigan haven't won national championships before, so let's go.
Well, and it's interesting you kind of phrase it in the SEC Big Ten. I would even say it's more like an Oregon team. Because to be clear, it's on the West Coast, and you guys play at your games kick off, one of them at 10 Eastern time, 7 Pacific.
If you're going to do that, can you say SC at least, so that's someone that actually wins national championships, please?
Well, I'm talking about the teams that are undefeated by the end of the season. SC always finds a way to make it so that
during your lifetime.
they have that bad.
Right.
They have that one, that one weird loss. It's always like Oregon State or Utah or something.
Right.
But what's interesting is that I think that that's the first that I've heard specifically, because at the end of the day, like I have nothing to do with that type of thing, no matter how many players in the league will send me messages about schedule or what the rules are, or if they're going to be featured on the Facebook or Instagram. I don't have that power, but it's the first that I'm hearing that you weren't aligning Vegas to kind of get that automatic.
No, I hated it. I wanted us to earn it. I wanted us to run the gauntlet and have a chance to beat 3 or 4 East Coast teams before we played in a championship, and instead of saying, "Hey, you beat everybody out west. Here you go."
Well, yeah, but I think with that being said, now that you guys do have it, although it's great, and people will say, "Oh, well, they have this easy path" or whatever. The interesting thing is that it almost puts more pressure on whoever that team is, whether it is the potential favorite out there in number one Insomniacs, whether it is Sick With It, who somehow finds a way to beat the Insomniacs and the Aces, whether it's the Aces, or somehow we also have to somehow include the Chaos, who are the Ohio team that is going to be in that Final Four matchup. But if all goes
likely.
And they would probably love to hear that, and I would probably agree. But let's be honest, you got to play, and it's going to be in Ohio, so maybe they have the home field advantage.
And I think that. Oh, sorry, Corey. Go ahead. I'll finish.
But whoever it is that comes out, and if it is a Vegas team, all of the championship games that Eric, you've witnessed or recent fans will remember are classic games of teams that are very well matched, that go toe-to-toe, and are basically punching each other in the mouth the entire time, so that it's that entertaining, and what has grown the league to be in a position where we're talking to you in a different time zone about the same national league and the longest running spring football league in the country. But
in history,
that being said, in history, absolutely. Yeah, you got to go to Matt for history. I just make declarative statements, and there's always a fact checker whenever I speak.
Right.
But the facts is that where that Western Conference, Ohio, Vegas, whatever that team is, if they face either the Northeast champ, which is maybe probably the heavy favorite, or the dark horse is the potential super team in the Florida representative, which we assume, and things could go weird, but the Tampa Bay Nightcrawlers, that isn't a competitive game. That's a 4-quarter game, and it's toe-to-toe. That speaks not only of the team that made it, but it's a whole referendum for a whole 365 days on what the West is, when, to be fair, a lot of your guys' players are making statements is that they're really ready and focused and not even on the same level and all this other great stuff, which is good and helpful for their morale and to get them there. But when it's on the national stage, the number one game that's going to be watched across the country all season, if they don't perform the way that they've been promising, it's almost like the negatives that could come from that are a lot of a higher consequence than I think people realize. So it's as great as it is that you guys have that spot. It's almost, we always talk about, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Well, Damocles' sword is another metaphor that we could talk about. And guys, look it up on Google. You have a phone, you could do it. Damocles' sword. If that's over the Vegas, the Ohio, the West champ, and it might happen to be, the BIC logo, and it doesn't go the way that they expect it to, it's also a gift and a curse. So, good luck out there in that game.
Matt, you had something you wanted to say, but I wanted to rebut Corey, so you go.
Yeah,
first.
no. You rebut. I just I counted 8 metaphors there, Corey. 8 metaphors.
Yes. Well,
twice as many times as I've been on the show. But so yes, I understand and I agree with you. They've got a lot that they have to live up to and all the hype, but it pales in comparison to what it would mean if BIC or the U loses to us. Like the amount of vitriol that's going to get spit at them by the entire Eastern Division. Like, you guys went out there and represented us and looked like dog shit. You let these teams from out west just dog walk you. If that happens, I promise you it would be way worse for the East if they lose than it is for the West. We're playing with house money. Let's be real.
That's true.
We don't in my opinion, we don't belong there without running the gauntlet of having to play 2 or 3 of the best teams in the East. But we're here. We're going to take advantage of that situation and put our best foot forward. So no matter what team that shows up, they'll have our support, LA or Vegas. We're going to get 100% behind them. If it's Ohio, we'll go out and show support for the whole league. But as far as the Vegas and LA teams, I own both divisions, so I've got both of their backs. But I'm here in Vegas. We're talking about the number 1 team in the country. We're talking about a potential matchup. If LA were to win, that means the number 10 team in the country is going to beat out the number 1 and 2 team in the country to get there. The likelihood of that happening is low based on what the projection is from the experts, which are the people on this call right now, the 3-on-1 podcast. So what you guys see on tape looks like they're the 10th best team in the country. Chances are they probably won't beat 1 and 2, maybe 1 or 2, but not 1 and 2.
And to me, to go to that point, because that's what I was going to bring up, you play the cards you're dealt. And I think for any league to grow, you have to adopt. This is how we are going to measure the different levels of this league. Because there's 26 different teams across all of these divisions in the A7FL. And if you want to be a European, I'm kidding. The European Premier League soccer model, the UEFA Cup, is a beautiful and ingenious plan, and the way it's structured is great. But we are a continent that happens to be a country. So you run into these logistical fucking nightmares. Derek can attest to it. I can attest to it because I have to get me, Slappy, and Wappy all the way across to the other side of the country to call our championship in July, and I think I have to rent the Electric Mayhem bus from the Muppet movie, so I'm not sure how we're doing that. But I like the idea of East versus West because we were talking about the SEC. We were talking about that. I think the way that you build this league is off of rivalries. In Vegas versus everybody's a thing, but we're starting to see Sickwit and Insomniacs become, and hopefully over time this will persist, the U and the BIC of Nevada. And you include Los Angeles, and you'll see more cross-pollination. You're seeing these Ohio guys really get into it. The model that worked in this league that drew people like you, Derek, or drew people in like Joe from Cincinnati, or Nate and Eric in Columbus, is the ability to build these inter-town beef. It's literally at the core of our business, at the core of our league, it is town beef. These guys from Patterson can beat the shit out of these guys from Trenton, but we're going to come together because those assholes in Vegas think that they can run game on us. Same for Cincinnati, same for Tampa, same for Orlando, same for all these other divisions. And I think being a media studies graduate of the New York University and studying the way that sports impact our lives culturally, one of the keys to connecting and aligning with a sports team or feeling a part of something bigger than yourself is that geographical proximity, is that local pride, is that community pride. And a lot of the stuff you guys do in Nevada to build that community pride is exemplary. Like, this idea of community is such an important part of this league, and we see it, Cory, every single week when the empanada guy is there and we're all just sitting around trying to figure out how to get his Cash App to work, and we're sitting there having a conversation, having some beverages, having some discourse, as it were. And that's some of my favorite memories of being in this league, is that we're all here, we all love football, and we all love talking shit.
And it is a community, and especially out in Vegas, when you think of their division, compared to the Northeast, we're talking about teams from Patterson, Trenton, Rahway, and everywhere in between for just the New Jersey teams. Then you go to what was some of our best players and our best teams in past seasons in Pennsylvania, and then Baltimore. Vegas has built that, Eric, props, in one city. Now that city, and I've been there, it's like a small state, but it is just one city that's filling out this entire division. So it's even more interesting that the one city has so many to represent, but now you have that relationship within its own city where You got the guys that have played on both squads. You got, we just talked to Scooter Hamilton, who said he's played with guys from Sickwit. They've all played with each other. So it builds that camaraderie. Me and Rob talk about all the time that when you watch the Baltimore teams play each other in seasons past, when there was 4 of them, even if a team wasn't, like for instance, the guys that make up the Buzz, a lot of times, not last week, but a lot of times when they play those inter-Baltimore games, those games are closer because there is a familiarity, like we were talking about, to bring it back to the beginning of this episode, that almost college regional conference feel. It's even more interesting that Vegas is just one city that has that whole almost statewide, region-wide feel, and the rivalries building and that will be built in there are going to help create that iron sharpening iron. And maybe that's a way to start getting into, which I think the meat of this episode should be, guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, which is our full, unofficial, but official playoff predictions, because even though Week 7 is important to maybe how we see these teams and how these teams kind of, jump start into their playoff run, the playoffs are pretty much set, right, Matt?
Yes, I'm going to be pulling it up in a second here. One of our statistical people, Cole Gardella, has put together a litany of scenarios that could break out in Week 7. But we should break some news because we were remiss to mention it. The games of the week this week are happening on A7FL.TV and DAZN. You see it on your screen there. The 1 o'clock game that was initially supposed to take place between the DC Buzz and the Trenton BIC is no longer happening. The DC Buzz have announced that they will be forfeiting that game. That news came in today, on Tuesday, when we were recording this episode of the podcast. So now the BIC do win. We will see how that affects their seeding. But as of now, the BIC will win by a variation of the Mercy Rule. And we'll have more information on that this Sunday on the A7FL Games of the Week. But let's go through some of these scenarios. Right now, locked in the Northeast, it is the Renegades and the Animals. The Animals locked in at the 4 spot, the Renegades at the 5 spot. And also the Rahway Snow Tribe versus the 3rd seed, which right now is the Patterson U. I think these are unique matchups. Like, I would go straight chalk in both of those games. I would go U and I would go Animals. And then we would end up seeing the Watchmen versus the Animals, which would be a fun game to watch, because we haven't seen those two teams play yet this year. And then we would have the BICU facing off again for the 4th year in a row in the playoffs, 3rd year in a row in a meaningful game, and this is going to be a real interesting matchup on the Northeast. Cory, would love to know your thoughts.
Well, I think what we've talked about, and it's the name of the episode, kind of, is the net points. So the Buzz decision in not, doing the whole, Boston Omegas thing and driving up and seeing what happens, even if the team is basically, favored heavily against you and you are 0 and whatever. So I don't know why they didn't do it, but I mean, everybody's got to make their own decision. But how, Matt, does that affect the net point conversation? Because what's then is going to happen is
that's what's getting cleared up. Because they're trying to it right now. One of the scenarios is the BIC win by their plus-minus differential, which is 26, which would mean
their average.
The average. The average. The average, which is 26 to nothing. From there, the U would need to score 69 or more points. 69 would tie them with the BIC, but the U would get the tiebreaker because they beat the BIC in the regular season. So that would mean...
But to clarify, that means the U have to win by 69, not just score 69.
Yeah, they have to win by 69, pardon me. They have to win by 69 or more points, which is unlikely because that Renegades defense is one of the stingiest in the A7FL. Their 60-0 loss to the Watchmen in Week 6 withstanding. So there's a lot of different variables. Let me go through some of these real quick for the top three seeds.
Why don't we keep it to the best estimate that we can, so that we can do the round by round, do the first round, go across the board, and keep the divisions moving, and then because I think realistically the situations that you're going over mean that we're going to have that conversation that we had in one of the hardest top tens we've ever did, is who is number one if Watchmen, BIC, and you have this point differential. And since they have the tiebreakers against each other, the 1, the 2, and the 3 are basically 1, 2, and 3 in net points.
Yeah. The Watchmen, the BIC, and the U are in that order because of how those games transpired.
Wow. So, I mean, I think that we should start a GoFundMe, and we'll all buy... I'll try shirts from tinyurl.com, send them to the Buzz, and now they'll get the whole point of the thing is why'd you do it, man? You made it even harder for everybody. So as the best scenario though, Matt, it would be Watchmen likely, who play Snow Tribe and are probably
no Watchmen and BIC get the bye. They get the first Watchmen.
That's what I'm saying. So they would be the number one out of those three.
Yes.
EIC 2 and U 3, just for argument's sake.
Yes.
Considering these. So what would be the first round matchups across the board? We said
in the East, or
we said that the Animals, Renegades, which is a rematch of a 7-0 game that was the U2 interception game. The Huff. The U. I said the U. The Huff 2 interception game.
Not me this time.
And
oops.
No, it's not. Well, and I said you, which is the team, which is even worse.
Right.
Because if Rob was here, we're not allowed to say Huff and you within 17 words of each other. And then we have the Snow Tribe versus the U.
Yeah.
And then what is the matchups in the other divisions?
Well, in Florida, it would be the Nightcrawlers versus either the Orange or the Ghost, but here's how that would break down. The scenarios are the Orange need to win, or Tampa wins by 72 or less.
So the Orange have to keep from losing by 72 points to make the playoffs, which the benefit will be they get to play the Nightcrawlers again.
Yes, or Tampa wins by 70. If Tampa wins by 73 or more, the Ghosts are number 2. The Orange would lose. That's due to point differential. Right now, the last game is Ghosts versus Orange. That's this Sunday's game. So that will decide how that goes.
I thought the Nightcrawlers were playing the Orange.
I'm sorry. Cole fucking lied to me. Right now,
I could be wrong.
No,
I thought I recalled it was Nightcrawlers.
To be clear, Derek, when I was talking to Bjorn Skarsgård about your 11 through 20, we were talking about the Ghost and the O-Town Orange teams and how we respect them, and I think
it is Nightcrawlers and Orange.
But
thanks.
I guess that's, and for those listening in Florida, we have a lot of really great players down there and a lot of good fans, but you guys got to get that fourth team, that fifth team, and if there's not enough guys in Florida that can play in the league that I can play, then we got an issue.
Same thing can be said for California. It hasn't been done right. It hasn't been done right yet, and it's being done right now. Oh, absolutely.
I think it's starting to because of the person that's over there. So that's the Florida matchup, and then the Vegas matchup, which is the more fun one, shakes out how, Matt?
Well, Derek, you can give a better understanding of that.
Let me describe that to you. So there's a couple things happening, but as far as the playoffs are concerned, we're locked 1 and 2 and 5 and 6. There's no changes that can happen there. This week at 3 and 4, the Kryptonite and the Force, who we haven't mentioned as a team that could come out of the West, and they certainly could, are playing each other, and the winner will take on Sick With It in the first round of the playoffs. The loser will take on the Insomniacs.
All right, so we have to settle that Week 7 matchup because that's A, prediction we have to do right this second to play this game. But B, probably the game of the week nationally based
Yep.
on the actual stakes. And in my opinion, which would be a referendum on the regular season for both of these team squads based on how they perform. We know that both of these teams aren't on the exact same level at this exact moment as Sickwit and the Insomniacs, but Derek, I'm going to pick the Force in that game, even though I love Lex Luthor. You know how much I love Darnell Richardson in his game. I think the Force are kind of on the right track, and their roster is just a little bit deeper than the Kryptonite. What do you say to decide that 3-4 matchup so we can play this game?
Yeah, so like you said, the roster depth and the fact that they're on an upward trajectory, they got punched in the mouth twice and have figured out how to rebound from that and look good doing it. There's nothing like playing Sickwit and playing the Insomniacs out west. There's no other test in the market like that.
Well,
So
you ask Coach Mack, they lost by 7. He made no excuses, but he also has other people reminding them, almost like hype men in the back. 4 touchdowns were taken back. 5 touchdowns. I mean, it grows with each week how many touchdowns were taken back. But the fact is that there were times that Force players ran across the goal line, and those were not counted as points. So we can say whatever we want if those penalties were real, or if they obviously needed to call a penalty if there's a penalty that causes
Right.
a touchdown. But
Right.
if you ask Force fans, and there's a lot of them out there.
well, you got in the end zone because someone was cheating. Let's be real. That's why I got
But
called
they'll
back.
say
And if my dog had gills, she'd be a fish.
Right.
Well, I'm not saying that they should have won. What I'm saying is that
Right.
the game was relatively close.
It was very
And-
close, and it was a great game. Lowest scoring game in Vegas this entire season, which I need to also say. Force's defense has been their trademark. Their running game has been their trademark. They don't have the same running backs that they had last season when they were the dominant force in the West, but they still have 2 great running backs back there and guys that carry the rock well. Cheddar, who has probably become their feature back, and I can't remember the other guy's name. He's 27, Latin-looking kid. Really, really nice guy. We were talking after the game. I can't remember his name right now. But both of them are a 1-2 punch in the backfield.
That's his
like
A7FL nickname given to you by Derek Duncan.
Latin
Really,
kid.
really nice guy. No, really, really nice guy.
I don't know if he's Polynesian or Latin. He's brown like me. You can't tell by looking at him.
You're now. Well, I was gonna say you're the only one that's allowed to say that on this pod, but
Well,
right now, maybe not. But so
Is your boy Stone's coming on? There he is.
that's
Rob
Coming
looking
to
all
us
fly.
live and
Scully.
in direct from somewhere. It's Bachata Bob, Big Rob Fabien. Hi, buddy.
we shift directly from Lex Luthor.
Hello, guys.
Luthor.
Luther Vandross.
No, Idris
dog.
Elba, the detective on BBC. So
Hey, yo, pause. What
The
did I miss,
network.
guys?
We're running
Hot
through. We're
seat.
running through the playoffs. We're running
hot
through the
seat
playoffs.
right now,
Okay.
Big Rob. Who wins this weekend? Force, Kryptonite. Go.
Kryptonite.
Really?
All right. What do you say, Derek?
Do
You
I
said Force.
believe it? No, but I gotta believe in Darnell. I feel like I haven't given Darnell a fair shake the entire season. I think he could pull this one out. I think Darnell could get it done.
Well, we were talking about how good the Force defense is. I was going to pick the Force, and I think that the better situation, obviously you don't want to play either the Insomniac or the Sick with it. That opening round is a meat grinder for the top 4 teams in the Southwest, in the Pacific, whatever you want to call it, the Derek Duncan owned territory. Of the A7FL. Hopefully no one gets dropped on their head. But when it comes to the DDT-based division, 4 through 8 is an interesting setup because the Force, the Kryptonite, right now, they lose. They're playing the Insomniacs. If they came in 5th, in the first round, if you were the OTT or the Hunters, how elated are you that you might end up drawing the Santa Monica Vibe in round 1? Like that gets you one step closer to your divisional Final Four. I'm not saying the Vibe are bad. We've seen them improve over the last couple of weeks. It was a dogfight 2 weeks ago when they faced off in week 6. But does the OTT have a shot to play any kind of spoiler? Because that team has been the most confusing team to me all season long. Because they are a fireworks show, but sometimes they point the fireworks at themselves, and I can't get a beat on them.
The short answer is, as long as Savion Cunningham is returning kicks, the moment someone scores, they have the opportunity to score right back every single time. If they are using him on offense and defense the entire time and returning kicks, he's only going to return about a third of those kicks back for a score, and they're going to have to be reliant on their offense, which isn't bad. But up against the top 2 teams in the league, in the division, they have not fared well. They've been on the rise. They've been doing much better. But hopefully they've taken these last 2 weeks to get in the lab and figure some things out, maybe do some more recruiting, get some big bodies to help out with the line. But they are firmly planted as the number 5 team in our division, as the way that they've performed throughout this year. The inconsistency against the better teams. I'm sorry. The consistency of being inconsistent against the better teams is a more accurate statement. It has kept them where they are. Now, they are likely the best team that isn't in the upper echelon and are maybe 1 or 2 pieces or a coach away from being one of those upper echelon teams. And that's what we keep wondering, if it's going to click, if it's going to come together. And it has been clicking and coming together in spurts.
And I think that a lot of it has to do with what is a major problem with a lot of teams in this league early on, the quarterback carousel. We saw it be a little bit of an issue for the U heading into this season. It'll be interesting how the Watchmen handle that heading into the playoffs. We saw it with the DC Buzz. The quarterback competition between Mark Diggs and Lenny Manziel, or Lenny Hedrick, kind of hobbled that team to go from being a playoff team and a team that me, Rob, and Cory thought would be a top 6 team in the division to going 0-7. So I feel like the half-stepping between Perry and G. Hurd and some of the other options, and also, like you said, using Savion Cunningham more time, like, it's like when you spam doing threes with Steph Curry in 2K. Like, yeah, you can do it. Yeah, you're giving the ball to your best player, but they're a human being. Like, the Gatorade meter's going to pop up sometime.
Right, exactly. And we've seen it happen for a lot of the returners in Vegas. If you guys remember back to that fall chip game where you had Lavish and KJ Burrell going back and forth, it wasn't until KJ started playing corner and had to run down a couple guys at corner that they were able to stop him on the returns because he was gassed. You can only do so much. A 100-yard wind sprint every 2 minutes or every 5 minutes is going to get people gassed after a while. It just has to happen.
And that's why I think being on the road, being in that situation, I think the OTT lose to California. Like, I can see a scenario where the 2 California teams walk into the Final Four of the DDT. Like, for me, is it going to happen? Probably not. Savion Cunningham out there in LA is a match made in heaven, because that kid is not Ashante worthy Hollywood, but he's a Hollywood caliber player.
Right. And Billy Mallard for the Aces, same.
Yeah,
heavier,
no, he's a killer.
Stronger, but same situation. But what LA hasn't had is 3-on-1 coverages that know how to stop guys like KJ, like Lavish, like Savion, like Trey. And if you're not seeing that every week and covering that every week, your chances are, like Billy did last game, you returning 6 out of 7 kicks for a tud. I don't see that happening playing a Vegas team, because we're built to cover the 3-on-1 now. Remember when we tried to cover the 3-on-1 as the Billy Mallard for the Aces?
He did that?
6 out of 7. 6 out of 7.
Jesus.
I think that's a record.
That has to be a record. Yeah.
I would guess it is.
Yeah, let's stop giving records out to those
alleged records. It's a 3-on-1 record, which means way too much to people for reasons I don't.
No, I know.
Thanks for being fans.
It's giving me PTSD of a certain guy with the initials RD talking about his records, and it's like, what? No,
Right.
I knew you were a fraud. I warned everyone he was a fraud. The vibe are who OTT plays, and if the OTT were playing the Aces, in my opinion, I don't think that they have enough as a full team, a full roster to figure that out. But we and fans at home watching the Northeast know how demoralizing it is to drive, get in a rhythm, score a touchdown, go to the sideline. Yay, let's go. 3 guys walk onto the field, they throw it off, and, I'm being generous here, a 5'9", 160-pound, rocket with a do-rag on is erasing all of their hard work in 1 second with no time off the clock. I will say this, and I have the unique experience to kind of know a lot of those OTT guys, playing with them in, the Derek Duncan special in February. And what I will say is that I respect a lot of their guys' game immensely, including G. Hurd, who I think gets a lot of shit as a quarterback just because he just doesn't do it conventionally. And he at times looked like he shouldn't be doing it. But just as often, he looks like he should be, and he makes some real big throws a lot of the time, and that's why his team scores, on average, low 30s, high 20s, even against the teams that at some point they're probably like, all right, whatever, get your thing. But I will say this, as much as G and all of his guys play, you guys were there when the playoffs hit in the fall. G. Hurd has to literally show up. Now, I'm not spitting them out and saying, and I'm just spitting.
I've got a scenario for you, Cory.
Hold on, let me just finish because this is directly to my guy. Not that he comes to play, not in the metaphorical. No, I said he has to wake up on time.
That's what I'm telling
the guys
you.
That he needs and drive to California. And if he does that, OTT wins. If he can't do that, which is like the minimum, we're going to lose.
Well, come on. This is a DDT division. He's not driving himself to California. There will be vans waiting for them to arrive at a specific hotel to be picked up and chauffeured down there. So all he has to do is show up on time.
This is going to be him. It's like, here, hold my hand, and we're going to take you there. But I ask you this. When they had a chance
you
in the
spiteful
playoffs,
motherfucker.
No, not spiteful. I'm
he's speaking the truth.
Last time OTT was in the playoffs,
he was late.
Encouraged it.
Yeah.
And he's not the courage job on that roster. He's the GM.
What last time was OTT in the playoffs?
We're talking the fall as a composite, example.
The fall that doesn't matter, but the fall matters in Vegas. It matters in Vegas to Vegas.
So for G to not show up to a televised playoff game in the fall, that doesn't count either. He's obviously going to show up, is what you're saying. All right, then.
I'm just saying. You're kind of holding what he did in the fall against them. Give him a fresh slate, bro. I'm saying, give him a chance, bro.
You got it. No,
give him a chance. Give him a chance.
So he has no excuse now.
I like G. Hurd this season. I'm not a G. Hurd super duper hater this season. I actually like what he was able to do. I think, again, if he's there, if he's healthy, G. Hurd is a great leader, though, like you said, not conventional. How many quarterbacks in A7 are? You get what I'm saying? That non-conventional stuff is yeah, right. So if that non-conventional stuff kind of gets it done. So I like what I see from G. Hurd. I do agree with you, though, Cory or Matt. I think one of you guys said it, that carousel of quarterbacks does have to stop.
Yeah.
Unless it's a literal planned, like, hey, we're going to go with Perry right now. Okay, G. Hurd, you get the next drive. The way the Watchmen do it. Yeah, the Watchmen do it to perfection, where there's no question who's coming in next.
I think John's
we'll see.
A lot in the playoffs.
But to all of that, I have a scenario, Cory. Have you seen the 1997 film Space Jam?
I think I have. I've made my kids watch it because they wanted to watch the LeBron one first. I was like,
now
before we go,
we will see G. Hurd pulled on a golf course into some sort of scenario involving the Looney Tunes, maybe some Ralph Bakshi characters. We don't have a lot of money, so we really can't afford.
Are they Muppets?
They're Muppets. They're the Muppets. They're Muppets. Yeah, it's all.
G. Hurd's getting pulled down a gutter in Vegas by Muppets. That sounds like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That sounds like the Hunters logo, Matt. That does not sound like Space Jam. That sounds like a terrible dream. But anyway,
but how it ends is you see in the sky ascending down a lovely double wide trailer, and then falling out of it is G Herd in full uniform. He'll rush for 265. The OTT will lose 92-74 because that's how their season's gone.
Or to the Monstars. Or to the Moop Stars.
Dude, they gave up 92 points. Like, we can't look past the fact they gave up 92 points. And they may have to play one of those teams again.
Matt, what octave is that, Matt?
38, though.
It's the fucking surprised octave.
Yeah, 92. 92.
92. No, listen. 92 sounds crazy without context. But if guys are scoring back to back on returns,
it was like six.
It's
6 3-on-1 returns.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. I'm aware. I have to say that every week. I'm aware of that, Schnookums. But the problem comes down to that inconsistency, because they still were able to score 38 points or 48 points.
38, 92 to 38.
92 to 38.
And then the following week they scored 8. The following week they scored 80 though. That's the word.
Yeah,
but that's the thing is
games against the mediocre teams that they've beaten. And in my opinion, not to disrespect anybody out there, but the Vibe are one of those mediocre teams that I think that the overwhelming top talent of the OTT is going to lead to their victory if they are able to get there in full, which is.
And I think the disrespect that's going on when it comes to the LA teams, as if these aren't guys that kind of have been playing for about a season or two before OTT, is kind of crazy. But again, only reason why I can't really jump off the bench and really go to bat for LA is because I haven't really seen much. If I had more video or more proof that they're actually getting busy over there, then I could I could actually really defend the point that, hey, the Vibe have been playing for like 2-3 seasons. Hey, we seen Billy Mallard. He came out here and he got busy against BIC. I know it's the Aces. I'm talking about LA as a whole. Like, those guys have they've tasted the Northeast before. A guy like
those Vibe guys to me,
you get what I'm getting at?
Guys to me are the newer guys in the division. A lot of the guys that have that A7 experience that came with Mallard to Jersey, those are mostly on the Aces, and some of the guys that were even on the earlier iterations of the Vibe. They've just joined.
The way you're talking about LA is the way I feel like you should be talking about Ohio, but you never do. You give Ohio, because you like those guys and they're your friends, you give Ohio the biggest, yes, you give them the nastiest benefit of the doubt. So bad that they think I hate them. They think, oh, Big Rob's just an old hater. It ain't that. It's just your first year. I'm proud of you guys for making it as far as you think you're going to make it. But in Ohio, y'all going to lose. It's as simple as that. Because experience is going to be.
You got to give them some credit, Rob, about the chaos.
So why not? Okay, why not? Why are we not giving LA anything?
I think the issue with LA, and Derek put it out on Front Street. It's in a transition. That division in the first 2 years was adrift in developing. There were a lot of issues that ended up with Derek and the great Kelly Hurst operating that division, Derek buying a majority share, working with David Meltzer and his team. And it was about building off of that core and creating consistency. I think the thing that will be a benefit for the Vibe and the Aces is that experience. But when you look at the fact that they weren't able to play a full season against a group of competition, it's the same issue we have with Florida. We know the Nightcrawlers are great. We hear all the crazy rumors coming out about X and Y who did this and that once, who, someone's cousin bought a jersey. Yeah.
Medicine.
Yeah, Dr. C might be rolling up to town. Someone with a giant resume could be stepping onto the field in the playoffs, but we don't know. In the same way that the neon lights are transfixed behind you, Rob, we're trying to figure it out in real time. And
Rob's working on the Florida division right now.
Yeah.
It looks like he's in Miami.
He's out there trying to recruit. He's out there with Michael Irvin in a sharkskin suit.
That's where the bachata comes from. Huh?
That's why he's Bachata Bob, baby. But when it comes to Florida, I have those same criticisms. But I think Ohio has played, in the Chaos, have played multiple different they've played 3 different teams who have thrown 3 different looks at them, and we've seen some interesting developments there. If you're outscoring dudes 97-6,
yeah, it's actually the opposite. It's non-interesting.
Not non-interesting in the fact, but
yeah, it is interesting that it's non-interesting
because
they're proving that they're the class, and obviously when we talk about the Florida in the Ohio division, maybe we skip the first round because I think we can all assume that our favorites in those division, the Chaos and the Nightcrawlers, are the heavy favorites coming out of there. So, we'll see when we get to that round of the playoffs. But you know what?
I want to touch
Rob,
on Ohio real quick before we jump off of that. I want to touch on Ohio because the thing that Ohio doesn't have is experience playing against any of the other divisions except for the Heist. They traveled to Florida a couple times last year, right? Or they've traveled to other divisions last year and got some of that experience.
Yeah, both back and forth, yeah.
Right, but the Chaos have not. But the Chaos handled the Heist. So there's something there that shows that Ohio has a little something that those guys were able to stack up and smash a team that has some history in the A7FL and has played in other divisions and understand what it means to be an A7FL player. So
remember, the Heist game gets lost because yes, they won handedly 20-0. It wasn't the same 56. It wasn't the same 63. It
was 26 and it ended early because of a medical issue.
Yeah. So it was 20. Yeah, they did score. They did score on that last play, and then the medical issue. But the Heist, that game, we'll see what the Heist bring back in the championship game. But we also have to remember the Heist team lost to the Snow Tribe team last year, even though that was, it was a fun game. But they were the 1-3 team. So as much as we respect the Heist and we put them in our top 10 because I think they earned it, based on what they were doing earlier, we're going to see what we can from the Chaos. But I don't see the Heist pulling that upset. Do you guys?
No.
Nope. But I'm getting Vegas and LA prepared for Ohio as if they will.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't have these guys walking in there thinking it's going to be a cakewalk.
No.
They need to understand that these guys have basically put a donut on everybody they've played, and they can't expect to run up the score on them. That they're going to need to play some serious defense.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there in the final four.
Anyway, hold on. That's the thing. That's why I don't like all the credit that the Chaos are getting because, bro, who have they played? They played the Covington Heist, who we then found out wasn't even the best team in Ohio at the time. They haven't played a soul. And then when they played them, they only scored 20-0. They've never been behind. They've never been down. They've never had to face a Sterry Codgerton. They never had to deal with an Ashante Worthy.
They've never faced
They never faced anything. So my thing is, at least we know the vibe, right? The vibe. I'm not trying to give the vibe credit. I haven't seen them. I can't really vouch for people I haven't seen. But at least we know the vibe had to deal with the Aces, who came out here and we actually saw a little bit from them. At least we know that. I get that they're in a transition period.
And the vibe did look better in their second.
I think it's the same energy, bro. I just think it's the same energy for both.
Well, how about this, Rob? This is a good segue because we talked about the OTT vibe game, which I think is an interesting. But I would say OTT takes that. But the other matchup, I think it's all LA, because as much as I respect what the Hunters have been doing, the 6th seed out of Vegas, and how much I think they've grown to learn the A7 game and adjust, on the fly to the roster moves that were happening since the fall. I don't think that they match up, just like you're saying, Rob, because the LA Aces are that pedigree team. They have that pedigree player, and no disrespect to my guys over there in the Hunters, but the defense that I've seen them playing, I don't think that they have a defensive answer for the type of running back they're going to play from the Aces. And if the Aces are able to get that running game going, there's nothing that the Hunters can do offensively to keep up with what Billy Mallard can do. I don't know if it's Millard or Mallard, but that guy is a beast. He's a man beast. He's going to run through that defense, and I think that the Aces take that game in the first round, that LA-Vegas matchup, pretty handedly.
Yeah, let me just say, if the Hunters are still without Dillard Davis, that it's a 17-point spread With Dillard, it's probably 5, and still Ace's favorite. Because what Dillard brings to the 3-on-1 and his defense and how he comes in the backfield, he would be a problem for the Aces, but he's been injured and dealing with a rib the last 3 weeks. So I don't expect him to play, but if he does, it's a different game.
And defensively, though, he is traditionally a corner, right?
He's a utility player. So I've seen him at linebacker, I've seen him out at corner, but primarily on offense and return.
With a rib issue, let me say this, with a rib issue and his size maybe being that of a stereotypical 11-on-11 corner, I don't think based on the game plans that I've been seeing from, the Aces and what they do with number 4, their running back, I don't think that's going to be a favorable matchup for him if he's got a rib issue. But, I want him to be healthy, and I want everybody to play with safety and all of what A7 brings. But there is a lot of physicality to our game, and the number 4 for the Aces, that's one of the guys that, in the first round of the playoffs, he might have one of the better numbers performances, in my opinion.
So, universally, we have the Insomniac, the Sick-Witted, the Aces, and the OTT moving on to the DDT Final Four. So,
yes. I don't know. We didn't really talk about because what did we say? Force was going to beat the Kryptonite, so it'd be
Sick-Witted, Force, Kryptonite, Insomniac.
Anybody want to take a leap and say that the Force are going to go on some kind of magical run now that they've?
I don't think so.
I'm a Sick-Witted fan. I like what Jeremy Geary does at quarterback. I like what all of their wide receivers do. And I'm a huge fan of what Lavish T brings. Scooter Hamilton said it. He's not that great of a flag player. Well, this isn't a flag podcast, and we don't give a shit about if you don't get the flag. You got to bring that man down. And when he does sound-breathing first form touchdown, Lord Kenyon, Lavish T is flashy. That's my guy.
Yeah, I think the Sick-Witted.
Rob wishes there weren't people talking behind him, and he could directly address my stupid anime reference. But guess what? The guy's got dyed hair, and he probably has 3 wives. He's a vegan, too. He's like, you guys don't know the reference. Lord Kenyon is an awesome
I have no clue.
What the fuck are you yammering about?
It's 2007 cartoons that I
You're
don't
welcome.
watch.
No, it's 2023.
This shit on Adult Swim, if it's got the robot.
I know the reference disgustingly as I just watched everything he just said. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of Cory. I'm just sick of him.
He's flashy.
He likes Sick-Witted, and I'm sick of him.
Is he flashy?
He's flashy. He said he's flashy. I'm done with Cory, bro. I'm done with Cory.
Moving on before we end up on Crunchyroll somehow. When it comes to...
It could be a sponsor.
I wish. When it comes to the Final Four of the DDT... I can't see the issues we have with the Force last season and heading into this season are, to me, the same issue. They're a very run-based offense, which works and doesn't work. I think that they're built right now to be one of the best teams out west, but I don't think they'll be able to level set in terms of just the amount of bodies that you need and the amount of size, like the Insomniac size, like Little Nightmare X scares the living. If I'm game planning out east, scares the shit out of me. Kenny Stansberry putting down the 2K remote and going to the whiteboard and turning on the projector and scheming for days on end to try to stop that gigantic human. And having Lavish T on that team on the Sick-Witted is a cheat code. The motherfucker's a game shark. He ran through defenders like they weren't even there. If you played Madden 04 and you did the drills, like when Outcast and Killer Mike would come on, and you were just throwing the ball with Michael Vick to just try to hit the receivers and those little wire outlines, the defenders in Nevada, when they're going up against Lavish T, are those fucking things. They are set dressing. They are bunting. They are not there to do anything else but what? I don't know. What the fuck is Rob doing? He's
listening.
Oh, it's either that or he's having a medical emergency or he's getting kissed. He's kissing. You ain't Soldier Boy, motherfucker. Stop trying to kiss me through the phone. When it comes to the Sick With It and the Insomniacs, I think that's the inevitable. That's the inevitable.
Well, how does it work out? Because when we get to that second round, so our first round winners would be the Aces
and
OTT.
the OTT. So the
We'll say that
OTT would play.
Insomniacs take care of the Kryptonite. We're all in agreement that Sick With It are going to handle the Force.
Yeah.
Though, if the Force can get pressure on Jeremy Geary, and
I'm not 100% in agreement, but I'm rolling with it for the sake of conversation.
Do you think that the Force defensive pass rush can make enough of an impact on Jeremy Geary so that the Force offense can score more points than the Sick With It offense?
I think
that's what I think the game comes down to, is the pass rush from the Force.
I think the Force, as far as matchups go, Sick With It's biggest issue besides the Insomniac is the Force because of personnel. They match up across the board with them well, like man on man across the board. For everyone that Sick With It has, Force has an equal player. They just it didn't work out for them last year.
Self-admittedly, what has Coach Mack said is the one weakness of the Force defense?
I don't know what he said, but if I'm watching on TV,
he said the defensive backs, and that's what he said. That's what I would agree with.
Their secondary is their issue, yes.
So, and what's the strength of Sick With It's offense?
I don't think it's the passing game, if that's what you're saying.
I was going to say it's the depth at wide receiver, because they have three of the top targets from the fall that we've seen, and when we include Darren Palmer and Mr. Uptop himself, Nigel or
Nathaniel Webster Spencer.
I was going to say Nigel Hathorne.
Nigel Hatcher.
Nathaniel Webster Spencer, but company, but also they bring that aggressive, speed style pass rush with Lualamana and Daniel Quinn that come from the pit bosses who have had success in Vegas. What would you say is the strength of Sick With It's offense then?
It's their underneath passing, the intermediate, stop on a dime and have great routes and not just hitting people over the top. Not that they can't hit people over the top, but they're
Sick With It. They're not OTT.
Right, but their strength for me has been jet sweeps and intermediate passing, quick passes, and to keep people confused and on their toes. And then once they suck up and start playing that intermediate, then they try to hit them over the top with DP and do a good job. But that's not their primary game, right? For me, from what I've been watching.
And what I mentioned Jeremy Geary multiple times, but I think that the strength and the reason that's their strength is because the depth that they have at wide receivers and the ability for those guys to run crisp, precise routes quickly.
Exactly.
And negate a lot of that pass rush stuff. But they've gotten really comfortable with the relatively soft schedule, and they haven't played those top two teams since really early in the season. So for me, the difference in that game is if the Force, if they want to make an upset, they have to get some defensive pass rush quickly and disrupt the timing of that pass game, because you said it. I love quick pass game. I'm a big proponent of the quick pass game. But if you can get pressure on the quarterback with three, you're only sending the three. No blitz. Get quick pressure on the quarterback, play coverage behind it. You take away those short routes.
Can somebody tell me how many points that the Force have scored this season?
I can pull that
overall,
up right now.
Plus minus. Yeah, I'd love to know.
I can pull you
that,
up totals and plus minus.
It's not going to be anywhere near where Sick With It is, because Sick With It put up 92.
Yeah, right.
I've got it. There. They have outscored their opponents 252 to 94. They have the third highest in the division in terms of net points. Insomniacs have 268. They've only given up 65 points this year.
And Sick With It.
In Sick With It had 330 to 100 plus 230. The Force have given up less points than is Sick With It. They've given up 94, but they've only scored 252. And in terms of net points,
therein lies the problem. The Force can't score like that. So all defense, that's half of the game. The other half of the game is, can they put the ball in the end zone? And based off of what we just heard, based off of the team they're going against, the answer to that is
Rob, when they played each other, it was 21-14.
21-14 when they played head to head.
And that's
I adore when we, because I'm a guy that's about to win, right? I don't care if I win by what did that guy who's always talking about family said? It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. They won. They won. You think Sick With It is going to be nervous to go against the Force again? I don't.
I'm saying that the game rests if the Force want an upset, which I'm not calling for. I'm saying Sick With It's going to win. If the Force want an upset and have a chance, they have to get some defensive pressure and disrupt that passing game, because the biggest weakness of the Force defense, in my opinion, which has been one of the better defensive units in Vegas, is their defensive secondary. And if you can't get pressure on Sick With It, Jeremy Geary is going to put up video game yards on those corners and those safeties. So my point and my take is if the Force want a chance in that game, that's what they do. But I think when Eric kind of mentioned it, he said he wasn't in full agreement. But for me, I'm a Sick With It guy, at least in that game. And I think that if you want a chance, you got to get pressure on the quarterback, and that's maybe going to be the only way to stop Sick With It as we move forward in this hypothetical playoffs.
So right now it would be Sick With It and Insomniacs coming out of the DDT. Hopefully Derek will be joining us back here on the podcast. If you're watching,
I didn't go anywhere.
He hoodwinked us.
I just had to turn off the video a minute to take care of some stuff.
How dare you?
No one wanted to see what was just happening. It's better that we saw the little icon.
Fucking my whole setup up.
Yeah,
I was back.
But Derek, your thoughts on that final matchup being the Insomniacs taking on Sick With It for the DDT division title?
Gosh. Looking at the common opponents, looking at when they played each other, and seeing how things have come together, it's tough because Sick With It, they played the Insomniacs the very first game out the gate before they were literally had learned how to be an A7FL team. They had experience, and half the other half of the guys did not. Now that those half of the guys have had this experience, they have a better understanding. Both teams have great coaching, not good, but great coaching. Guys that I would love to play for or stand beside and coach with them. And gosh, I'm gonna get punched in the face for this, but I got Sick With It by 3 with that final matchup. If everybody shows up healthy, the one X factor is Trey Robinson is back for the Insomniacs. He hasn't been around the last 3 weeks, so if he remains healthy and is available for the game, he's the X factor that could potentially sway my vote. But based on what I've seen so far this season, I got Sick With It by 3.
That is a very interesting prediction.
Is that the next round matchup?
They would
only play each other in the final.
Yeah, So Derek has Sick With It going to Ohio, playing against the Chaos. My pick's the Insomniacs.
Who do the Aces have to play?
The Aces have to play the Insomniacs. The Sick With It would play the OTT. Or no, wait. The Insomniacs would play OTT. Sick With It will play the Aces.
And for me, the Aces are basically the Force with a great return game. They're very evenly matched. Obviously, the Force beat them last season. So we would expect the outcome of the Force versus the other Vegas teams to be the same outcome as the Aces versus the other Vegas teams.
There, and I think the Insomniacs are obviously going to take care of business because of OTT. But then maybe we go first round in Jersey, though, Matt, because I think
it's the U and the Snow Tribe and the Animals and the
Renegades.
We
would all agree the U are the favorite there. Is anybody feeling that the Snow Tribe are putting together the type of momentum that they're going to be able to not make it a game? Because I think they're starting to kind of run on the right path of who they should be. They've kind of combined the heavy pass, heavy run aspects of their offense, and they're doing that. Their defense is all of those guys are kind of playing to their strengths. I think their defensive backs two of their defensive backs, guy Ralph and Rondo, those two guys are among the league leaders in picks. But do they have a legitimate shot in the first round of the playoffs to beat the U?
No.
I think they believe that they have a shot. I think that's how they
I think it'll
feel
be a
right now.
competitive game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means.
I think it will be. I think it'll be Force versus Snow Tribe all over again, but probably 40-12 instead of 33-12.
Well, we did see them play this season. If I'm trying to remember correctly,
It was week 1.
It was week 1. It was one of our
45-12.
That
you go.
is, yeah.
But
I think the
it's
Snow
gonna
Tribe
be-
team is better.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be the exact same, but I think it.
I think the U have gotten better too, though.
Yeah, they have. They've certainly gotten
Carlos
better.
Crosland looks pretty healthy. We'll see at 1:00 as we mentioned that, right, Matt?
Yeah, the U will
1
be
o'clock
in
game, so the
action
U
against the
Renegades.
Renegades,
Renegades slide.
and the Snow Tribe will face the Watchmen. The Kryptonite will take on the Force, but we'll also have coverage of the Boston Omegas in action in our 7:00 game, rounding out their first season. I feel like for the Snow Tribe, a lot of the issues that we talked about with the OTT are the same issues the Snow Tribe had. Lack of consistency at quarterback.
They don't have Corey Hammond at quarterback?
They don't have Corey Hammond at quarterback. That's obviously I think deciding on someone at quarterback, because all the issues surround they did, but they needed an entire sideline fight. Like they're through the woods on that. But the path they took to get to Jonathan Keel as the starting quarterback for the Snow Tribe cost them, I think, a win, maybe 2. And they could be in the position the Renegades are in right now to play against an Animals team that heading into week 6, heading into the playoffs, have 2 losses, have had to face more adversity than they did at any point in the regular season so far this year. And how are these guys going to perform? Baby Joker, the litany of players that are young on this team.
Lou Shiesty,
yeah, like there are players on the Animals who won't be on the field this week and in the playoffs because of incidents that occurred during the BIC game. So I think if the Snow Tribe were playing the Animals, that game may be a 1-score game. The Snow Tribe may be able to find a way to get on them. And I think that the Renegades are in the best position out of any team to make shit really interesting. Because them against the Watchmen is a fun watch. And if CP3 is back, there's a lot of things that can break weird in that game.
Well, it's interesting you say it's a good watch, because I was actually just going to say, Matt, going into the game last week in which the Renegades went down to DC and played the Watchmen, and those games and those situations always sometimes get a little weird. But it was 60-0. So I don't know. I really haven't even seen the film there, but I don't even know what happened from the Renegades team that I saw play a bunch of teams in a row, really tough, really well. Their defense looked dominant, to what happened last week. It's going to be interesting in the game, in the 1:00 game of the week, to see how they respond against the U team that, they're coming off of a blowout, mercy rule win that they haven't heard as much shit for a mercy rule win somehow in the history of their organization. So they're going to come out motivated too. So I think for the 4-5 in New Jersey, it's going to be really interesting, because who plays quarterback for the Renegades has been a question that we've been asking for a little bit. And if they have a pretty solid answer there, they have a pretty solid chance against the Animals. I think, though, as much as we hyped the Animals up earlier in the season, we'd be remiss to not kind of keep with that same energy. 4-5 matchup to me, no disrespect to the Renegades. I think that's when Huff is going to take all of this, fun, like sharing the ball stuff that he's trying to been implementing to build the confidence of his team, and turn it into the Huff show, where he's played this season to make a statement, in my opinion. And I think the statement starts in the first round of the playoffs, making sure that they get that win against the Renegades.
Rob's got the
That'll
gas
be a fun
face.
game. Rob is in the middle of a conversation out there. I think he's I think he's out there bouncing.
I hear everything. No, I hear everything you guys are saying. I do agree. I mean, there's a good chance that CP3 is healthy. That was really the plan for him to miss pretty much the better part of the rest of the season to be able to come into the playoffs and actually make a difference. If CP3 is healthy,
huge.
That's huge. That's probably
huge.
one of the biggest games in this beginning stage of the playoffs. If CP3 is healthy, that Renegades Animals game is going to be through the roof, because we have to remember, I know people didn't know this, but CP3 got hurt first play of the game versus the Animals. What happens if he's healthy the entire game? We don't know. So, it's not for us to find out, and I'm actually excited for that game.
He was only a total of 2 scores away from beating defending champs in BIC and the Huff-led Animals in weeks 1 and 2 when he was on the field, even though, he was struggling with health even week 1. But he was also facing those ridiculous wins too. Don't forget that, everybody at home.
It's going to be a lot nicer.
It's going to be a lot more manageable when he gets a chance, if he gets a chance, and we all hope that he does. And that might be a totally different game, because we talked about how Huff went 2-0 that week. If at the end of the season Huff is 2-1, those 2 victories in that 1 week mean nothing. If CP3 walks out of there with a playoff win, and Huff's MVP season tour ends in the first round, which I don't know if I feel comfortable saying, and I don't know if we'll see that happen, but it's definitely a storyline that is a potential. And you gotta stay tuned to the games of the week that weekend.
Let's go around the horn real quick. Gun to your head. Renegades or Animals, Rob?
Animals. Gotta go Animals. I don't know enough about what's going on the Renegades right now to make any other call. Huff has been playing out of his mind. I still feel like Huff is gonna finish the season 5-2. He said it, we said it, so they're right on track to make a splash in the playoffs.
And Cory, you're picking the Huff Tops?
Uffables.
Derek?
The Quatranimals.
The Quatranimals.
Yeah.
It sounds like a 4-bar verse.
That's a band that came up in my Apple Music algorithm. I think it was because them, Japanese Breakfast, and Turnstile. All real band names. But then we head into the Northeast Final Four, which would be the Animals taking on the Watchmen. Those 2 teams have yet to play this year. And the U and the BIC in a rematch.
That is some football.
That is going to be the wildest
football.
That is going to be one of the wildest Sundays in the history of this league, especially what's going on the other side of the coast, which we just talked about, which would be the DDT Final Four. I believe that the BIC and the Watchmen are going to be the 2 teams that end up playing each other for the Northeast Division title, and that it will be the BIC taking on the Nightcrawlers in Ohio. The momentum they've been riding, Sterry Codrington's been too accurate. He's gotten a lot of his weapons back. What we've seen from the Bell brothers, we've seen a healthy Verardi come back. I think that them being off they're going to be off 4 weeks in a row. They're going to be off for 4 weeks. So that means might be a problem. Which might be a problem.
Maybe they would have rather tuned up against whatever the first round matchup is. But Matt, you're jumping way into the future. You already zipped past.
Well, because I want to get my licks in now, because I know you guys are going to want to break it down.
Like 80 minutes.
Yeah, you're gonna talk the rest of this podcast runtime. So I'm just like, I'm setting the table for this question.
Absolutely.
Okay. Argue why I'm right or why I'm wrong.
I say you're wrong because the better storyline is Silk versus the U in the Northeast Championship.
I mean,
but do you think that they can?
But...
Do you think that the Animals can beat the Watchmen?
I think that there's a chance. I think that they haven't played. I think that Huff at top form with his team at top form has an opportunity. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I like the storyline way better.
The storyline's very interesting. I think the U cook and reheat the Animals if they play again, because I think they're going to. the problem with the Animals, and this is not an indictment on anybody. This is not me saying you guys are ass. You are a great football team. Rob is the one who calls people ass. I'm the one who has to sit on the fence because, well, look at me. When it comes to the Animals, this is Baby Joker's first year. This is Lou Scheiste's first year. These are a lot of guys who are stepping into this role, and a lot of guys like Chill Out Duke and guys who were on the U with Huff, they weren't first-line guys last year. Rob, you played with a lot of those guys, but a lot of them, when you were on the field, they were on the sideline. So this is a big pressure situation for a team that has the two extremes. What was that, Cory?
Nothing. I was going to say, I remember we affectionately call him Doo-Doo because of what his daughter calls him, but Shaquem McCutcheon wanted to pummel me into the ground because of the slant reference. You're saying that he wasn't on the – I mean, I'm just joking, and I said they're not going to like that, Matt. I don't think it's as much of a referendum on the inexperience or lack of, championship being the guy experience for the Animals as it is. We could just go up and down the Watchmen roster, and we talk about the Insomniacs as a Vegas All-Star team. The Baltimore Watchmen are pretty much the best players in recent A7FL history from the Baltimore region. I mean, their wide receivers go list and list and list, and you get to Ant Mo relatively late. They have running backs that you don't even talk enough about because everybody's making a play, and their defense is led not by just leaders but ballers. So for me, saying that the Watchmen beat the Animals is not a referendum on how poorly the Animals are suited for the playoffs. I think it would just be the opposite, Matt. It would be the high level of respect that we not only have for Baltimore as a whole, but the way that, in my opinion, that they put this thing together over this season. And they played BIC earlier in the year, and without the whole Lenny Manziel, total mishap kind of thing right before that half, that was a pretty competitive game in which the Watchmen were regularly able to do what they wanted on offense. Now, they didn't have a chance to stop Ashanti Worthy in multiple situations, but I think that Watchmen team has built themselves up to be a true championship contender. And for me, I just think that, not that the Animals are bad, but the Watchmen, to me, in that round, they're just better in that game, and they come out with the win.
Cory's such a nice fucking guy. Bro, the Watchmen are a fucking Baltimore All-Star team. What are we even sugarcoating this shit for? They're not going to lose to the Animals because, well, you said it. You took a long time to say it. They're not going to lose to the Animals, bro. The Watchmen are literally the best Baltimore players that the A7 has produced. Former champions are on that team. The Animals don't have enough. It's Huff versus them. Baby Joker, this is his first season. Like you said, what's the other guy? Shiesty.
Lou Shiesty. Yep.
This is Lou Shiesty's first season. They're gonna get a taste of, how this league works, but they're babies in this. And it's no offense to them and no offense to how their game is gonna grow. I'm even on record saying that guys like Baby Joker, guys like Trey, guys like Umar, these guys are the future of the league, of course. But right now is not their time. The Watchmen are going to walk through the Animals with no issue whatsoever. None.
So I don't know why you're
Huff
disagreeing
is going to score. Huff,
because basically
no, I'm not
we just said the same thing.
I just think, no, but you say it such a nice, sweetheart, long-winded person. Oh my God!
And you're wearing
the Animals are not.
No, this is my life. This is my fucking life.
Listen, fuck that. The Animals do not suck. But they're not good enough to beat the top three, period. That's it. It is what it is. You feel me?
Rob agrees. Rob agrees with me.
Yes,
I agree.
And that's the thing. You guys are all going chalk, and that's the easy thing to do. I'm just trying to present the alternative.
Well, it's not as much the easy thing to do. It's just like we'd rather be honest with our expectations than try to gas somebody up.
What was that, Cory?
Where do you see the Animals winning? Let's be clear. As great as Huff is at quarterback, two quarterbacks that regularly suit up for the Watchmen are at least on a very similar level, right? We're talking about John Gauze and OG Buck. We're not talking about a drop-off of if we were going from with the
Yeah,
animals.
no
playing,
disrespect. We're not
right?
talking about Lenny Manziel here. We're not talking about Lenny. We're
Yes.
talking about Ace and Buck. Two guys, Buck, who's never been to the big dance, but Ace, who's won the big dance in 2018. So Ace knows what it takes. Ace destroyed his body on the goal line versus a former NFL player. That guy knows how to win. He didn't score because I don't think all 260 pounds of that 6'5" man versus Ace in that frame was ever going to get over it. But the heart Ace had to even attempt that play, that time, last second play, a guy like that is not losing to the animals, whether Huff is there or not. He's just not. If it's not a steroid right now, and I even feel like I heard Matt say it. It's what do we feel? Do we feel like it's the Watchmen versus BIC?
Well,
do we feel like
does BIC get revenge on that earlier season loss on the U if Carlos Carlson is 100% healthy?
I don't know. Do the U play upset here? Because the U is not the favorite. We know that. We definitely know that. The U is not the favorite.
The U that we saw that beat BIC, they brought the Miller brothers and committed to
they look good.
A dominant type of run game. But talk about attendance, Rob. We're not going to break anything, but attendance for BIC, something, nothing, maybe just.
No, the reason why I'm saying nothing is because BIC caught their second win. Steri Kodjicin just revealed for the better part of the first half of the season he was hurt, and nobody knew.
The next game that BIC plays, because we just talked about it, Rob, they're not playing the Buzz this weekend, right, Matt? So the next game they play is that game.
No, they have to play the. Oh, that's right. Because
they would be playing. They'd be playing the winner of that game.
Is that time off enough to make the difference?
Well, hasn't
what they put on tape last week
for who?
Because it's
for the BIC.
They're off.
Is 3 weeks off going to be too much rust, or are they going to be better for it?
Yeah, I don't know.
They'll be better for it. Everybody will be healed up. Everybody's gonna be ready to go. This is playoff BIC, guys. It's not. I don't know how to explain to you guys what it feels like to be in the playoffs, but there's no rest in the playoffs. You're on the edge of your seat every day. You're doing extra workouts. You're eating extra lean, extra clean, because you want to make it to the big dance.
Is it a matter of
most recently on in that situation?
The U.
And do they or do they not have a lot of guys that know how to do that too?
No, that's what I'm saying. I agree. That's why I said that you can possibly play upset. There's still a chance. I know they're not the
Here's the
favorite,
thing that we didn't see Matt Riddick in the BICU game, the first one. We didn't see a healthy Verardi. We didn't see all of the weapons on display. Did Courage even show up until the second quarter?
He always plays the U. Now,
he always plays the U. Now, I know.
He always plays the U.
But also, the U would have to go through a Snow Tribe team that are looking to pick their bones, that are looking to get up one on them.
But they should win.
They should win. But having that.
And then the next week they have BIC, right?
Yeah. If the U win, they would take on BIC. It would be BIC U.
But also, the U get to play and tune up because it's a meaningless game. So even if they lose, they really don't slide because of the head-to-head win against the Animals. But they do play the Renegades as a tune-up. They play the Snow Tribe as, a tune-up adjacent. They're likely gonna win, but it's a playoff game. They better show up for that game. Is that a better situation for your team? Is those two tune-up games before you play BIC again? Or would you rather be BIC and be able to rest everybody? Everybody's 100% if they, maybe are a little rusty.
We're talking about Cory Price not playing the majority of the regular season, so he's healthy for the playoffs. So,
but I'm
juxtaposing what you're saying against that decision-making process. If I can get a healthy Steri Codrington for the U, I'm taking that bye week. I'm taking whatever I can to make sure that my guys have the freshest legs possible. Because you know what the Snow Tribe's going to try to do to that U defense. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to get keels going. We're going to see the guy that went viral, 3.6 million people watching him snuff somebody into the fucking dirt, sending them off into the phantom zone. Like, the Snow Tribe is not going to walk in there and be the guys that gave way to the 80 boys last season. I think that game's going to be tougher. And Ryan Shamar is going to use all this as billboard material, and they should. The fact that they are 3 games away from going to their 5th straight championship, like, that's a fucking ridiculous number in this league, in any league.
This would probably be the year that it's the hardest for any of these teams to maybe even get there.
Yeah.
But I do think I'm willing to go out on a limb to say that I think that based on the things that I know about BIC and the things that they've shown us, that they are going to be ready for that game. And it's going to be interesting to see how they answer what the U was able to do, because what the U was able to do in their win against BIC was dominate the line of scrimmage when the U was on offense. And that made a huge difference. Now, if they're able to do that, I think they have a great chance of winning this game. But I think what BIC is going to be able to do is it's almost losing to the U and seeing the formula that beat them gives them what they need to get better at so that they're prepared. Because the U is probably going to say to themselves, look, this is how we beat them. We beat them before. Let's do it again. And if you have 3 weeks basically to assume that that's the team you're going to play and make that adjustment, I think that Kenny Stansbury and that defense are probably likely going to be able to make that adjustment. And we'll see what Ryan Shamar is able to do with a counterpunch. But I see BIC coming out of that game too, Matt.
And so do we... right now, the hypothetical semifinals, the conference championships for 2023, are the BIC and the Nightcrawlers, because I feel like we all believe the Nightcrawlers are coming out of Florida.
Yep.
And the Chaos, Derek, you believe it'll be Sick with It.
You guys think it's Insomniac, so I mean, we need to settle that.
Because we also skipped over Watchmen BIC. Are we ready to say that the Watchmen, all 4 of us without a conversation, are worse than BIC and are going to get beat in that game?
So the BIC beat Watchmen earlier this season, right? But Watchmen have gotten better since then, is what we're all saying. I didn't watch their 60-0 shellacking, so I have not seen what they put on tape that day.
They've hit that. But what they did in that game against BIC is they were up, right? And I even said it. They were up, and then BIC equalized. Was less than 2 minutes at half. Lenny Hedrick came in for the Watchmen. He had this fumble play. Ole Bell returned it for a touchdown, and then they got the ball back and then scored again. So it was a point swing differential, and the game ended in a 9-point difference. So the game was about a 1-point swing. Now Rob will tell you, you win the game. You win the game. That's it. Who cares about the point spread? But what I will say is that I think it's a mistake to look past what the Watchmen have been able to build, because there's a reason why they handedly beat the U the way that they did. And there's a reason why in most of their possessions on offense and defense, they looked like they were at least on the same level as BIC. It's because they're talented. It's because a lot of those guys who could have been selfish are not being selfish. And week in and week out, somehow, no one covers Tony Toe Tap. Marlon Anderson, for whatever reason, is always open. So if he's able to make the kind of big plays that we're used to, they definitely have a chance against BIC and a chance at going to Ohio to face the Nightcrawlers. But again, disagree with me if you guys want. I think I do agree with Matt, though. I was just trying to be the buttoned up version and give the Watchmen a little bit of a kind of a headstone on their season, because if they lose to BIC in that regional final, it's a success for them, but they're all going to be disappointed because they have championship on their mind, and I feel like they're a championship level team. It's just that I think that they're playing the eventual champions in that championship game in the Northeast.
Rob said it 100 times that BIC is the champ and they're going to go on a 2 to 3 year run. So and you guys know this league way better than I do. You see a lot more tape of the East Coast. You watch those games live, you call them. I have to rock with you guys on that. But for me, from the tape I've seen, from the way these rosters are constructed and what happened last season in the championship, I still think the U are the better team between BIC and the U. That is my own personal opinion, just based on what I've personally seen and the tape I've seen.
For me, it comes down to the quarterback and what Sterry Codrington has done this year against tougher competition statistically. over 60% passing in a league where if you're completing 50 to 45% of your passes, you're in the upper tier. The fact that he's thrown and completed more than he's rushed this season shows the evolution of who Sterry Codrington is, and I think he's doing a lot of it out of spite to prove that he can play behind center. And also,
but is that going to be a bad habit that he's built? Because let's be clear, one of Sterry Codrington's most deadly weapons is when he decides to take off.
I don't think so.
Because my thing is if he waits for just the pass against these higher level teams, he's hurting his own.
That was his mistake against the U. Like I'll say that. Yeah.
And if he's able to dash and gash on a defense in one play, and then they have to play honest against the run and open up the one-on-ones for his wide receivers to get open, that's when their offense is most effective. When he effectively becomes the number one rush option, even though they have great running backs, including Courage, Ice Cream Truck, and the rookie who I think is probably going to have one of these games in the playoffs where he breaks out.
Taheem Duran, yeah.
But if Sterry Codrington is the number one rushing threat for that team and you have to put a spy that is either in the box or hovers around the box, you can't put a double team on Hugh Bell, Shanti Worthy, Kason Campbell, or even the tertiary and quaternary receivers.
Trey Cohen.
That BIC.
We saw Trey Cohen go off in that
Lewis.
last game. Yeah, Umar Lewis. And that's the thing is I think Sterry heading into this is going to be a big problem because I think he's learned from what happened in that U game. We've seen that offense mature a lot in the back portion of this season. That BIC offense in Week 6 was a problem. And I think that's going to lead them back to the championship.
The only defender in the A7FL that can keep Sterry Codrington from absolutely dominating a game is that little voice in his head that says, don't run, make the throw when the 90-yard touchdown is there. So
right.
I don't think in the championship level games, because just like Huff has kind of been building and working the offense and executing the offense in a way to kind of prepare for the next level, I think Sterry has been doing that to polish his passing ability just so it's at the top level it could possibly be. But I will caution that if he gets too pass heavy, he actually acts as a defender against himself, because if you take away that rushing ability, it just allows for the defense to more honestly cover the pass, which is not what you want to do schematically if you're BIC. So, I mean, that's interesting though, Derek. I think we're going to gloss over it, but you think the U come out on top against BIC?
The U is my favorite in the East. Period.
Nice. Maybe we got to do these little brackets and release them out to Facebook.
I'm gonna be working on that next week.
So how about let's even piss off more people and go to, because let's just say Chaos, boom, Ohio, Nightcrawlers, boom, Florida. We feel comfortable saying Sickwit going to be aces.
Well, yes. Derek has Sickwit coming out of the West,
and then Insomniacs beat the OTT at that point. So the championship would be Insomniac Sickwit, and Derek, you say Sickwit.
Putting those two together at the end of the season, just the way that things have come together, I got Sick by 3. Just
now, you mentioned Trey Robinson is potentially your wrench in it, X factor.
Yep.
But what's the reason then for Sickwit? What's the overwhelming thing for Sickwit that you think is going to carry them and make them at least a favorite? Not that they're going to, blow them out, and you'll have to answer this later.
Save 2 players on the team. They are the most selfless together team I've ever seen in the A7FL.
What have you seen from the Insomniacs that wouldn't make them as selfless as Sick?
They've had guys get ejected for fighting.
That'll do it.
That sometimes does it. But that somewhat round, projectile that you throw at pins is not around the team anymore, is he?
He is.
He's back for the playoffs, I believe. But
that's correct.
I'm
not saying that he's the issue. I'm just saying that overall,
the
togetherness and how they come together as a unit, I believe Sick is a stronger unit than Insomniacs are as a unit. As individuals, Insomniacs have the better talent, and if it was just talent versus talent on the field, Insomniacs, I believe, win that game. But it's a team sport.
I'll 1,000% give you a hot take. Sick would it make it out of listen? If Sick would it make it out of the West to make it to the championship, they're gonna get blown the fuck out. I promise you that. They're not gonna stand a chance. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like It might be close again. Matchups, styles make fights, and that's really what it comes out to. And that's why when I look at the Insomniacs, they look so scary. Like initially, I'm like, okay, they did what we said. They made an all-star team, but so what? Then I'm looking at the linemen they have. Then I'm looking at the corners, and then I'm looking at the DBs. I'm like, damn, these guys are kind of fucking loaded.
Yeah, when Scott McCorkle talks about that Vegas has a pass rush, he's talking about the one team that has a pass rush, and it's like 8 of them on the one team. And they make up enough to if they spread them out, they would have a pass rush. The rest of the teams don't. Insomniacs do. But just to finish off Derek's point, so basically what you're saying is a slant confirmation that the main sickness that all of these top Vegas teams have is that when the chips start to get put, on the table and the stacks are pretty close, what we've seen from those top teams, early fall, the pit bosses, they got smacked.
He basically saying when it gets tough, they're gonna fold, and you don't think Sick-Witted is the team
when the Hunters were undefeated and they were starting to talk trash, smacked Kryptonite.
No,
they were the favorite in the fall championship, and they got beat by a team that they destroyed.
I get that.
So I'm just asking Derek. I'm not saying you. I think the Insomniacs.
But I think you kind of land on that a little too much because that has been what Vegas has kind of been doing. But at the same time, you don't think, respectfully, the Insomniacs have seen enough of that in their heyday to not repeat that same mistake?
A lot of those guys were on the Kryptonite team that it happened to, and when
that's what I'm saying. You don't think they learned?
When those moments got tight, they started to have that little friction that takes away from that winning mentality. And I think that they might have what it takes to just throttle through. My take on that game is I think the Insomniacs are going to win. I was just asking if that's kind of what Derek was seeing the path for Sick-Witted, is that in those moments the Sick-Witted guys stay together where the Insomniac guys start to,
I think that's exactly what you're saying.
The teams that are great, that have not faced adversity and have that little edginess, when things start to go bad, they start finger pointing instead of gelling. And that is the only reason why matchup, I'm going to pick Sick over Insomniacs in a championship game like that. Period. If it's just raw talent, man on man, it was 1 versus 1 across the board, Insomniacs are a better team. Insomniacs are better individuals. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think this is where, and Cory, I'll let you finish your point, but I think this is where we'll leave it off with this particular conversation, and we will have stuff on the...
No. All right. So my thing is that if you just look at the tape, the way that you beat Sick-Witted is you put pressure on the quarterback and disrupt the timing of their short passing game. And what I think that the Insomniacs can do is exactly that. And when they do that, it's going to be tough for the Sick-Witted to match because they have never consistently said, hey, we're going to put this running formation out there and run till you stop it and then do play action. Jeremy Geary has done a great job handling the pocket the way that he does, manipulating the timing in the routes to make sure the ball's out on time. But if we mess up that timing somehow as a defense as the Insomniacs, and let's be honest, their trench war that they're likely going to win when they're on offense, and they're going to go with that almost force style, which is that patented win anywhere style of we can run and then we can go play action with better receivers over the top, which is what the U does when they're most successful.
Right.
I think that's going to be too much for Sick-Witted in that championship game. But I think it's going to be a pretty contentious game if Jeremy Geary can get the ball out on time and those receivers don't somehow get pressed at the line and completely canceled out, which is going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, and to completely walk it back, the the Insomniacs receiving core is so crazy good. If it comes down to a shootout, they win. And the Sick-Witted defense isn't strong enough to hold that down if they get into a shootout. But what I'm expecting is the efficiencies of Sick and the team togetherness of Sick to step out in front. But if it turns into a shootout, I don't think. I think Insomniacs walk with it.
If Scooter completes the well-covered balls that I've seen him complete against the Force, against Sickwit in the championship game, Sickwit doesn't have a chance. If he misses those, those deep open guys where Munch or some of those other guys are jumping and doing those head-top catches.
Like Davik, you cannot overthrow the man. So if they understand what they're doing, they have that weapon, and there's no wind, they've got a huge advantage there.
There's no cloud cover. If the weather's is relatively ideal for Vegas, it's dry.
No, Vegas summers are windy, especially in the afternoon. As soon as that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock time frame hits, the winds come in because it heats everything up. It happens every day. So it'll be interesting. See how it all goes down.
And then the Insomniacs just settled to, I don't know, handing the ball off to Bravado.
Right.
Bravado Wilkerson. So as a backup
the weapons are scary, but we can be talking, we can conjecture, but we're not going to be the one Cory is. This Sunday on A7FL.TV, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, that is 10 a.m. Vegas time. We'll start things off with the Renegades and the U on the national feed. Action will be all day long on A7FL.TV. And at 4 o'clock, it'll be the Snow Tribe taking on the Watchmen. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we'll be bouncing between our final game of the year. It'll be the Kryptonite taking on the Force, and the Omegas will be in action as well. And you can find all the games at A7FL.TV. That is A7FL.TV. Out in Vegas this week, a lot of big matchups. But in LA, the Pit Bosses in the gold will be travailing through the desert on the Proud Highway to take on the Los Angeles Aces and also the Santa Monica Vibe. So you're going to want to watch that action live on A7FL.TV. I will not be there this Sunday. I have to run Catalyst Wrestling live in Chilo's Greenwood. And if you want to buy tickets, for the love of God, buy tickets. You can go to catalystwrestling.com for that information. LJ Smith will be in my stead this week.
Oh, nice.
But I'm taking that fucking chair back right quick when we start the playoffs, because if you think that I'm not going to miss, if you think I'm going to miss my fourth straight A7FL playoffs and miss calling my fourth A7FL championship, you're a crazy person. Anybody tries to come after that chair on July 23rd, they're getting punched in the throat. And it's going to be by Rob. But we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Derek Duncan, thank you as always for being a fantastic guest and fitting in with the show and being with the shits as always. You can follow us across social media, our bios, how to follow us, our sponsor, Skillshare. All that information is in the description below, whether you're listening to us or watching us.
Hey, Matt, don't forget to promo the championship.
And that's right. The championship tickets will go on sale this Sunday for the A7FL Championship. We'll have more information on that on the Games of the Week on how you can join us in Bullhead City, right in the Las Vegas pseudo-mega metroplex area. It is presented by A7FL Nevada. The entire weekend is shaping up to be a banger, and as we get into the playoffs, obviously, Derek, we're going to have you back on to explain that to our audience. You can also listen to The Other Side of the Ball, which is now live on Wednesdays, and it's on...
So jealous.
Yeah, that nice studio. I'm doing it here in my studio like a dummy.
Yeah, look, there's room for you in Vegas, bro. Just come on down.
I don't know if I can deal with the heat, but... We gotta deal with the heat. That is the A7FL action. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to The Other Side of the Ball, and be sure to follow all the A7FL action at A7FL.TV and A7FL.com. For Cory Hammond, for our guest Derek Duncan, and for Big Rob Fabien, I'm Matt Ryan, reminding you, as always, don't be an asshole.
I'll try.